Well, good afternoon to all of you in Indonesia and ASEAN joining us for this second session of the European Research Days Indonesia 2020. My name is Susanne Rantzowaso. I'm the regional representative of Euraxis ASEAN, and I am moderating today's session. And I'm sure you're already looking forward to the presentation. We'll be learning all about research and funding opportunities in Germany, of course, one of the key players in research and higher education in Europe. Now, before I hand over to today's expert speakers, allow me to just briefly show you a little bit of information about Euraxis ASEAN. Euraxis is a information and support tool for researchers like yourselves. Sorry, I'm just making myself the presenter here so I can show you my screen. So you should be able to see my screen now. Christian, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So just allow me to just introduce you quickly to the organization that I'm representing, Euraxis. And I think this is a wonderful tool for many of you that are joining us today. It really is a one-stop information and support tool for mobile researchers, for researchers like yourselves, interested in finding out where are the career opportunities, where are the opportunities for collaboration with European partners. And this is where Euraxis comes in. Now, Euraxis is a project that is supported by the European Commission, but it really has members of all European countries, 42 countries at the moment. And what do? They provide you with all the information that you need to know to develop your research career. Key of this, of course, is the job and funding portal. And I'm sure for many of you, this will be one of the key elements that you're interested in. We're posting on this portal thousands of opportunities on a daily basis, not just research jobs, but also fellowships and other funding opportunities all across Europe. Euraxis also provides you with a partnering tool. Now, I know for lots of early stage career researchers, finding partners, finding collaborators is often an obstacle. Now, what we have here is a tool where you can search for individual researchers, but also for research organizations and even industry players all across Europe and all across the globe, because Euraxis is a global network. By the way, this is an opportunity for you as an institution in Indonesia or elsewhere in ASEAN to also put your details down there to make sure that other researchers and other institutions can find you if they're looking for collaborators. Euraxis also offers a hosting database. Now, this is a database of very concrete offers of supervisors in Europe that are looking for PhD students, that are looking for postdoctoral researchers. So once again, making it easy for you to make that move to Europe. Euraxis offers a lot of information. Of course, anything that's important to you if you want to spend some time researching in Europe, or if you're looking for research collaborators, you will find this on our very extensive information pages. And what we have on top of this is personalized assistance. And this is, I think, what makes this project unique, in that we have these Euraxis service centers across Europe with real people, not computer robots, but real people that are waiting to help you make your mobility experience a reality. I am part of Euraxis Worldwide, so I am part of a global network where we're connecting Europe with our research partners all across the globe. I am based in Singapore on a permanent basis. I would usually be visiting you in Indonesia. Personally, we would be having this ERD in a nice venue, but you can also always contact me via email. And if you click here on this QR code, this will lead you to our website, where you will find lots of information specifically related to researchers in Southeast Asia, and also related to the activities that we are hosting for our community here in Southeast Asia. And of course, we're right in the middle now of the European Research Days Indonesia. I'm not sure whether some of us or some of you joined us yesterday for the opening. It was fabulous. We had the Minister for Research and Technology of Indonesia. We had the EU ambassador. We had a fabulous panel of young researchers from Indonesia who are currently in Europe and are developing their research career. Lots still coming up, so please try and join us for as many sessions as you can. And with this, I will stop sharing this presentation. And it is now my turn, of course, to introduce you to today's expert speaker. And with us is Christian Rabl. Christian is working with the DAAD, the regional office of the DAAD in Jakarta. DAAD, you know, DAAD, is the German Academic Exchange Service, but it does a lot more than just academic exchanges. And I'm sure Christian will tell you more about the DAAD, the funding, and the research opportunities in Germany now. So Christian, with this, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Susanne, for your kind introduction. First of all, let me say and extend Selamat Siang, good afternoon to all of you from all corners of Indonesia. I've seen that we have a lot of participants from very different institutions, and I'm very much looking forward to your questions and to the discussions after my presentation. As Susanne said, I am based in Jakarta at the DAAD Regional Office. I myself am a lecturer at the Faculty of Humanities of the University of Indonesia. I'm today representing the DAAD. I will talk also about the work of the DAAD, and I will introduce you to the German research landscape, give you some facts and figures, but most importantly tell you where you can conduct research in Germany and what funding opportunities there are for you. First of all, there are a lot of research institutions in Germany, around 1,000 institutions that are publicly funded. In total, more than 3% of the German GDP are spent on research and development. So that means there is a huge number of personnel that works in that sector. And of course, there are a lot of international collaborations with different countries, of course, also with Indonesia. The first figure that might be interesting or astounding for you is that actually more than 2/3 of the expenditures on research are privately invested, are invested by the German industry, which is a major player in applied research mostly. The universities make for 17% of the spending on research, and the rest comes from private and public research institutions. I'm not going to talk so much about industrial research today. That would be an interesting topic for another section, but I guess that most of you are interested in working either at a university or a research institution. Now, what's interesting is that the number of international staff at universities has significantly increased over the past 12 years. You can see that between 2008 and 2017, the number has almost doubled to up to 50,000 now. And these are only researchers that work at universities. In total, the number of international researchers in Germany amounts to 121. About 47,000 of them work at universities, but there is also academic staff at research institutions, plus a big number of guest researchers. Now, the pillars of the German research sector are three. First of all, the universities or higher education institutions. Secondly, the non-university research institutes. And thirdly, industrial research. My focus today will be on the second pillar, on the research institutes, for the simple reason that maybe those are not so well known in Indonesia yet, and for the other fact that universities are probably very well known as research institutions. So I'm going to cast a bit more light on this pillar. Now, what sort of research institutions are there? Basically, you can divide them based on their approach. There are research institutions that are more invested into applied research, and there are those that are more invested in basic research. You can also differentiate from where the funding comes from, whether it is public funding or private funding. As you can see, the universities are somewhere between applied research and basic research, and studying at a German university is state subsidized, so that is public funding. 90% of the German universities are public institutions, and only 10% are private higher education institutions. So that is, compared to Indonesia, the exact reverse percentage, with 90% of higher education in institutions in Indonesia being private. There are around 400 higher education institutions in Indonesia. Broadly speaking, there are two types of universities. There are the regular universities, and there are the universities of applied sciences. The universities of applied sciences are more praxis-oriented. They have usually a very close link, especially to local industry. Typically, for example, you can do internships at local companies, or research projects are more into applied research. With a very few exceptions, the universities of applied sciences are not authorized to confer doctorates. So if you're interested in doing PhD studies or a doctorate in Germany, you would usually do that at a full range university. Almost 28,000 international doctoral candidates are currently enrolled at German institutions, and the number is growing every year. The second pillar of the German research landscapes are the non-university research institutions. There are the big four: the Max Planck Society, the Helmholtz Association, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, and the Leibniz Association. All four of them are named after reputable scientists or philosophers that played a major role in the history of science. And as you can see on this slide, these are not single institutes, but they are umbrella organizations. So they consist of several centers or institutes. The biggest of these is the Helmholtz Association, with a total staff of 40,000. In terms of budget and number of employees and researchers, this is the biggest of the big four in Germany, followed by the Fraunhofer Society and by the Max Planck Society. I will now go into detail and tell you about the differences between these four. First of all, the Max Planck Society. It has 86 institutes specialized on different research topics. They are located all over Germany, and from these four, it is by far the most international, with more than 50% of the researchers being international, means not holding a German passport. The Max Planck Society also accommodates, so to say, two of the Nobel Prize winners this year. Both one of the Nobel Prize winners for physics and for chemistry are directors of Max Planck Society, of Max Planck Institutes in Germany. The Max Planck Society has a very specific approach to research. It conducts basic research in all fields of science. However, an emphasis is on the natural sciences and on the life sciences. The approach is very person-centered. So the Max Planck Society creates excellent opportunities for very renowned scientists, and then those scientists basically decide over their funding, over the researchers, and also over the topic that work in their research groups. They have a very high output of research publications, and since 1948, 20 researchers from these institutions have been awarded a Nobel Prize. The second of the big four is the Leibniz Association. The Leibniz Association is also an umbrella organization which consists of 93 institutes. 23% of its researchers are of international origin. The Leibniz Association tries to combine theory and praxis, so it is bridging basic and applied research, and its most important mission is the knowledge transfer into politics, science, and also business and society, which is why many of these institutions are not only like research institutions, but they also comprise of museums, archives, and libraries that do research as well. While the focus of the Max Planck Institute is on the natural sciences, the focus areas of the Leibniz associations are more in social sciences and humanities. The third organization I would like to present today is the Helmholtz Association, that currently has 19 research centers and with 14,000 staff members, the biggest personnel of these four. More than 10,000 international researchers work at these 19 research centers. One of them, for example, is the German Cancer Research Center. Helmholtz Association is also active in the field of basic research. Its 6 research fields lie in the natural sciences and in the life sciences and medicine. They maintain some very large scale devices and research infrastructure that are very costly and therefore are shared with the big numbers of research institutions. As you can see, a lot of patent registrations come from researchers from the Helmholtz Foundation. And last but not least, the Fraunhofer Society with 72 institutes. This is Germany's home of applied research. That means that research is often commissioned by the industry, but also the public administration. It is specialized on 6 core areas of research, which are health, safety, communication, mobility, energy, and environment. So these are the big 4 public research institutions in Germany. Industrial research plays a major role in Germany, as I said. It makes for 69% of all research funding. The main innovation driving sectors are the pharmaceutical industry, electronics, the automotive engineering industry, of course, and mechanical engineering. If you're interested in that, in knowing more about that, I will later show you a link where you can get more information. Now, research funding, where does the funding for research projects in Germany come from? There is, first of all, the German Research Foundation. In German, it's called DFG, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft. It mostly funds projects, not individual persons, projects that are based or centered in Germany. It also has offices worldwide in 6 nations outside of Germany, and it operates according to a very bottom-up approach. So scientists or groups of scientists can apply for funding for science projects at German universities, and this is very big-scale funding. So if you maybe intend to stay in Germany after your PhD or work at university, this will certainly be an interesting opportunity. The Alexander von Humboldt Foundation funds international scholars. In 2018, these were 810 scholars worldwide. There is a very wide network of Humboldtians, that is alumni, that have been funded, supported by the Humboldt Foundation. There are 111 alumni associations worldwide. Also in Indonesia, there is and Humboldt Club. The Humboldt Association supports postdoctoral research, so if you have finished your PhD already, you might be eligible. 55 Nobel laureates speak for the quality of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. Most of the fellows are based in Europe. There is also a big number of fellows in North America and Asia. And last but not least, my organization, the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service, it promotes the academic exchange of students, scholars, and researchers, and it is for this the biggest funding organization worldwide. In 2019, the DAAD's global budget, amounted to almost 600 million euros, and it grants scholarships in all disciplines. It also maintains 69 offices worldwide. There is a regional office in Jakarta, so if you have more questions concerning the DAAD programs, you may always contact us. The motto of the DAAD is change by exchange, so we basically, the DAAD basically awards scholarships for excellent students and researchers, but it also supports university partnerships and collaboration among institutes, departments, and universities. Now, where are these research institutes located? As I said, they are all over Germany. It's not like there are hubs for specific things. It's very decentralized, so to say. To find out more about who is specialized or focused on what, I refer to this very important site, research-in-germany.org. There you can download publications on all sorts of, on all fields of research, and you see here these maps, which institutes do what. For example, what Fraunhofer are specialized in what. This is not only for biology, but also for material sciences and engineering, or for the social sciences. I will later. Now let's talk about funding opportunities. This is probably one of the most important issues of today. I will start with the funding opportunities for PhD students, as I assume that some of you also are interested in doing a doctorate abroad. In Germany, you have two models, or two pathways to a PhD. The first one, and traditional one, is an individual PhD. The second, newer model, is a structured PhD. What does that mean? If you do an individual PhD, you are supervised by one supervisor. You do not have a fixed curriculum, but you rather have an agreement with the supervisor. The admission is mostly informal, and you have a lot of, let's say, freedom to arrange your own time. So you're not part of a school, you're not necessarily part of a group, but you have an individual agreement with a supervisor at a university. If you are more familiar with a structured program, for example, a research group or a graduate school, then a structured PhD program might be the right thing for you. There you are guided by a team of supervisors. You usually have a mandatory and fixed curriculum, so additional courses that you might have to take. You have to apply for it. And often you have a given topic or an umbrella topic, and you have to find a topic within like a big and general topic that fits into the research group. Financing your PhD, the good news first, there are no tuition fees at German universities for PhD studies. Nevertheless, of course, you need to finance your research stay in Germany. You need about $1,000 a month for your living costs. Of course, this depends also very much on where you live. In big cities, you are more likely to spend maybe a bit more money than $1,000 a month. There are different ways of funding your PhD studies. You can either be financed by a German university, you can have a work contract, or you can have a scholarship or a grant. So there is the option of working at a research institution or a university with a work contract, where you can apply for a scholarship. You can either stay for a short-term research stay, or you can do a complete doctorate in Germany. Let's talk about the structured programs, the graduate and research schools. First, there is a big number of funding opportunities. They're, for example, offered by the German universities in the frame of the Excellence Initiative, but there are also DAAD-funded doctoral programs at universities. There are the research schools and the graduate schools that have been established by the research institutions, such as the International Max Planck Research Schools, such as the International Helmholtz Research Schools, the Leibniz Graduate Schools, and there are also European programs. I'm not going into detail there because there are other webinars for that. The International Max Planck Research Schools offer PhD opportunities for doctoral candidates up to 3 years. There you have a work contract with a specific research institute. And as you can see, it's quite lucrative. You would get approximately 2,000 euros a month. The doctoral degree is always awarded by a university, by a German university or institution in Indonesia, because only universities in Germany are authorized to confer a doctoral degree. Also, the Leibniz Associations have established graduate schools. All the Helmholtz centers offer such opportunities. And also the German Research Foundation has established or funds research training groups at university. In terms of individual funding, there is also a variety of different programs. You can do an individual doctorate at a university. You can do an individual doctorate at each of the non-university research institutions in collaboration with the university, and you can apply for a variety of other funding programs. Just one example of doing a doctorate at a research institute here at the Max Planck Institute, for example, can be a PhD student, stay up to 3 years. You apply individually to a research institute, Max Planck Institute of your choice. There's also a variety of DAAD programs for doctoral programs in Germany. The funding is granted up to 4 years. Actually, today is the application deadline for this year. So there is one application deadline and intake every year. It is usually in the mid of October. If you prefer not to stay for the entire period of 4 years in Germany, there is also an alternative model. It's called the binationally supervised doctoral degrees. I call it the sandwich model because it means that you have a research phase in Germany, but you do the second part of your research at a university in Indonesia. You have 2 supervisors, one at an Indonesian university and one at a German university. The degree is either conferred by both institutions or only by the Indonesian institution. And you can also do a research stay in Germany as part of your PhD studies. You can stay up to 12 months at a German university or research institute. The doctoral degree then comes only from an Indonesian institution, but you can do field work, lab work in Germany. And if your field of research is in aeronautics, in space research, or energy and transportation, you might also have a look at this program, which has been set up by the DAAD and the DLR, that's the German Aerospace Center. This is a fellowship program for PhD students, but also postdocs in this specific field. and PhD students could apply for funding for up to 3 years. Green Talent is a very nice initiative by the German Ministry of Education and Research. It is basically a science competition in the field of sustainability research. The science competition is targets especially international junior researchers from all over the world in these particular fields. Every year, 20 to 25 students or researchers are awarded this award and then take part in a 2-week science forum, meeting researchers from Germany and from all over the world, and then are granted a research stay at a research institute of their choice up to 3 months. A very nice program. The application deadline for this year has already passed. Maybe next year there's something for you. For postdocs, there are also several opportunities, either in form of fellowship or in form of a work contract. You could, for example, be a postdoctoral researcher at a research institute, you could lead a junior research group, or you could even apply for a junior professorship at a university. This is just a selection of programs you could apply for. The first one being the DAAD program Research Stay for University Academics. If you have a research project, a specific research project at a German university or non-university research institute, you can apply for funding for a research stay of 1 to 3 months. For this program, you need to have an agreement and a letter of invitation for a German institution, and you need to apply with research proposal like what you want to do within these 3 months. Another interesting program comes from the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. This is a fellowship for development-related research projects. So it targets specifically researchers from transition and developing countries that have a research project in the field of development studies or that contributes to develop in their home countries. The duration of the funding is up to 2 years. If your program is not particularly related to development studies or development projects, you could apply for another scheme for the Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship. You could also apply for becoming an international visiting researcher at a Max Planck Institute. All Max Planck Institutes have their vacancies online, so if there is something interesting for you, you could apply directly to that specific institute and stay there up to 6 months. There is no specific application deadline. You just have to check on the website and then can apply at any time. This is both for PhD students and for postdocs and senior researchers. You could also have a junior research group. There is a big number of different programs. For example, M.A.Degrees program that specifically targets female researchers, or Fraunhofer Attract for applied research, and many, many other programs. I just pick one of them, Fraunhofer Attract. This is a grant that allows you to establish a research group at a Fraunhofer Institute. The funding can be up to 2.5 million euros in total, including your own position. If you're interested in that, you should have strong ties with the Fraunhofer Institute already, and then you have to submit an application jointly with that specific Fraunhofer Institute, and then you can establish a research group on a topic of your choice there. Very interesting program if you have already close ties to a Fraunhofer Institute. And there are also other projects, for example, a junior professorship that are funded by the German Research Foundation at a university. You can also apply for grants to support the international initiation of international collaborations. Also, that is funded by the German Research Foundation for postdocs from Indonesia, for example, that work at German universities already. For senior researchers, there are research awards, for example, the Fraunhofer Award or the Humboldt Award. So this is usually prize money that comes with the awards. And there are other options, for example, an Alexander von Humboldt professorship. It means that you are funded for a period of up to 5 years and are then a professor at a German university, or Fraunhofer Track, a program that I already mentioned. Now, this has been quite a big number of programs that I've presented. I would like to highlight one last program for DAAD alumni that is for researchers that have already been funded by or supported by the German Academic Exchange Service. Alumni can apply for further funding for research days in Germany of 1 to 3 months. That's a special program for DAAD alumni. Where can you find more information on all these programs? The first and probably most important website here is Research in Germany. There you find information on the research landscape, who does what in Germany. You find career options, you find vacancies, you find more information on scholarships, on research funding, but also general information about living in Germany. You can also download a variety of brochures from that website on the German research landscapes and on specific fields of research. If you're interested in doing a PhD in Germany, you can find job opportunities or vacancies on this website, phdgermany.de. Eurexis, of course, and you also find vacancies on academics.com. And you can always contact us at the DAAD Regional Office in Jakarta. We have a website, of course. We have a very dynamic Instagram account. We have Facebook. We have Twitter, so you can follow us on the social media as well. You can write us an email. The office is at the moment not regularly occupied due to COVID-19, but we offer online consultation. You can book a consultation slot on our website. If you have more questions, just contact me. You can find my email here. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that I think I'm very much in time, and now I'm looking forward to your questions. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Christian. This was really an excellent presentation with so much information. And I think the key takeaway is there are plenty of opportunities. Really, it appears that what our audience members have to do is just really make use of all the websites that you've provided to find out more about the various opportunities. Now, we had a few questions nonetheless, which I'd like you to maybe give a short answer to if you can. A lot of what you said is available online, but there are, of course, some questions that people might want some answers from you. First of all, there's always the question about the PhD in Germany. The common question, I'm sure you've heard it all before, is it necessary to speak German?
I would say for most programs, no. Of course, it depends a bit on your individual project, but most of our scholarship holders, or generally most PhD students, now do their PhD in English. English is very widespread at German universities, and in some subjects like economics, for example, or natural sciences, and also engineering, it is now probably the most common language for international publications. In some fields of research, for example, social sciences or history, you might have a knowledge of German, for example, to access certain documents. So there, of course, it does not only make sense to speak German, but is even necessary. independent from that, it always makes sense, I think, to speak a bit of German, not for your research, but for your everyday life in Germany. So our scholarship holders are granted German language courses, either in Germany or this year due to COVID-19 online language courses, because it makes living in Germany much easier if you have at least a basic command of the language.
Thank you so much, Christian. Now, we've heard there are various ways of doing a PhD in Germany, the traditional way, and you can do a structured PhD program. Now, for the traditional way, which I think is still more common within Germany, what would be your advice if someone is interested to explore this opportunity? How would they, first of all, find out where the research is carried out, which university might be a good university to go to, and how should they get in touch with a potential supervisor? What are maybe your three common recommendations?
All right, there are different ways of finding the right supervisor for you. Generally speaking, I would say the first thing is read the relevant literature in your field. So just check the bibliographies, just check who published what papers on what. You might also access people at international conferences, just speak to them, get in touch with them. That's one thing. And I think very important that you really read, okay, who publishes in my field of research? And if you have identified these people, just write a nice email to them. I'll say a bit more about that later. So that's the first way. The second way is maybe your teachers at your Indonesian universities are already in contact or maybe even collaborate with university partners in Germany. Then you could ask them for recommendations. We also have a big alumni network in Indonesia, around 3,000 DAAD alumni. So you see there are many people who did a PhD in Germany. Maybe they can recommend someone to you. And the third way of finding the right supervisor is access all these informations, the website that I just mentioned, research in Germany, for example, have a look at the research map, who does what, and then find the right institutes, the right departments, see who publishes what in your field and who might be the right supervisor. And once you have found someone that it seems interesting to you, you just write an email. Make sure that your email gets very much to the point, that it's not too long. Of course, it should be polite. You should have information about the supervisor. You should have read some of his or her publications. I think that's very important. That also shows some respect. You should have an initial draft of a research project, or at least an idea that you can discuss with the supervisor. And you should also be prepared to really initiate discussion about your research project, because usually supervisors do not just say, okay, sounds good to me, just apply for admission. They really want to discuss your proposal in detail. Sometimes they will also say, that sounds very interesting, but that's not really my area of expertise. You might try with my colleague at that university. I would recommend you to study with him or her. So engage in discussion that might go for several weeks or sometimes even months. So a certain readiness to work on your proposal and define it and sharpen it is also very important.
Thank you so much, Christian. There have been other questions related to PhD research in Germany. And the question is there an age limit, both for starting a PhD and maybe also an age limit related to the DAAD funding opportunities that you are providing?
No, there is no age limit, neither for studying at universities nor for applying for a scholarship. However, I have to say that generally the last degree for a DAAD scholarship application should not be older than 6 years. So your last master degree should not be older than 6 years. So there is no age limit. However, there is this rule that if your last degree, let's say, was taken 20 years ago, you might not be eligible. if, for example, your last degree, you took it like 10 years ago because you have founded a family and you had to take care of kids, that might be a reason that you are eligible, even if this 6 years rule has been stretched. So under these circumstances, you might still be eligible, but generally 6 years is the maximum.
Thank you, Christian. And maybe another question about the PhD. You've already touched on it, I think, but maybe to just say explicitly, what are the usual requirements to be allowed to enroll for a PhD program in Germany?
First of all, you need a research proposal, an exposé, that is usually 4, 5, up to 10 pages. This is very important because this is the basis for your discussion with the supervisor. It doesn't make any sense to contact a supervisor without having at least an initial idea or even a draft of this proposal. In this proposal, you have to specify what is your research question or what is your hypothesis that you want to prove. What sort of methodology do you want to apply? What is the state of art already, like what research has been done on that topic? What is innovative about your approach or about your research project? It should also contain a little or a bibliography. And you should also make clear like what is the benefit of your project for research community in general, but maybe also in the long term. So that is very, very important. Of course, that should be written in English or in German, if you will. And that is the basis for discussion. Then you need a letter of acceptance from a supervisor, also for the application for a D scholarship. That is usually just a one-page letter where a professor says that he or she will accept you as a PhD student. Please note that not all university teachers are allowed to become supervisors. Usually these are professors or researchers that have done a so-called habilitation or a second book. And once you have received a letter of acceptance from a supervisor, you also have to apply formally for admission at a university faculty. Without a formal admission to university, you can usually not be granted a DAAD scholarship. Sometimes you should check the requirements for these admissions to university. They concern the language requirements sometimes, so especially the English language skills. So it's specified there what, for example, what IELTS test certificates are accepted, what band score you need, and in some cases you also need to prove additional language skills. So you have to check that on the faculty's website. What are the formal criteria to be admitted to a PhD program? And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. And I think I can add that what I introduced at the beginning, we have the Euraxis network and the Euraxis cyber centers, many of which are at different universities across Germany. So if you are interested to find out explicitly about doing a PhD at a very specific university or research institute in Germany, you can also contact the colleagues there and they will give you advice if you cannot get an appointment with Christian in Jakarta. Now, we had a lot of questions, of course, always regarding very specific fields, but maybe if I answer that, as you've already said, there are PhD and postdoc and undergraduate opportunities as well, of course, in all scientific disciplines. So there's no area that is excluded. Is that correct, Christian?
Yeah, that is correct. Just one, I mean, we're talking about research here. Research in Germany starts from the PhD level. That's a bit different to Indonesia, where master studies are also considered to be partly research. In Germany, research usually starts from the PhD level. So when you do a doctorate, and there we have scholarships that are open to all fields of research, with one exception. If you do a medical doctorate, that's not considered a research doctorate in Germany. So if you're interested in biomedical research or medical research, you have to make sure that your degree is called a Doctor of Sciences, of Natural Sciences, because a medical doctorate is usually done within half a year or a year in Germany, and it's not so much research focused. You said undergraduate research. I have to make a little exception there. Yes, we do also offer scholarships for undergraduate students, but not fully funded study programs. So if you want to do a fully like bachelor studies in Germany, we do not offer fully funded scholarships for bachelor studies in Germany. But other than that, we have a broad variety of scholarship and funding programs. And for those of you who work at Indonesian universities and are interested in an institutional collaboration, there is also the opportunity of applying for funding with a German partner university that allows you, for example, to accommodate scholarships for exchange of students and doctoral candidates. It's also very interesting. However, the German partner university has to apply for these funding schemes.
Thank you, Christian. And that was actually exactly the second question that I wanted to ask you. We have quite a few audience members today that are interested in that part. They're interested in getting your advice on how to establish an institutional research collaboration. If they are with the Indonesian research, with the Indonesian university, and they'd like to establish a partnership with the German university, maybe you could just give us a quick summary. You've already implied that there is some funding, but maybe again a little summary how one should go about pursuing an endeavor like that.
Advice for you would be to start from small steps. So if you have Germany alumni at your institution, you could contact them. So maybe they still have contacts with research partners in Germany, or they can give you some advice. We have, as I said, a big network of DAAD alumni. So there are, especially if you're from a bigger university, there are good chances that you have DAAD or Germany alumni at your institution. If you do not have such networks, personal networks already, you could start from inviting a guest researcher, for example, either for an international conference in Indonesia once this pandemic is over, or for a virtual format, of course, as well. You could invite German researchers for a workshop or for a summer school. So for something that is not so difficult to organize and does not require someone to come to Indonesia for a big amount of time, but only like for a short period of time. As I said, a summer school conference, that would be a good starting point. To find out who could be a good research partner, I would refer to the same sources of information that I've already mentioned a couple of times: research maps, research in Germany, and so on. It could also be interesting to have a look at the at the universities who are already very active in Indonesia, or who have a research focus on Indonesia. For example, in the political sciences, some departments have a focus actually on political sciences in the region of Southeast Asia, so they would be a good target group, I would say. Once you have established some contacts, you can build it up from there. Like from the conferences, you can think about, well, in what direction do we want to go? Is it more like a double degree program, for example, or is it more about students exchange, or is it more about research output? So you can specify the objectives of your collaboration. And from there, you can think about what kind of funding schemes would be the right programs for us. The DAAD project funding is plentiful. So there are programs for joint study programs, for example, for joint degree programs. There are programs for student exchange programs, and there are also programs for curriculum development, for example, and so on. What the DAAD does not fund is research projects without the participation of universities. So if it's really only about research, let's say, for example, from LIPI or from some other Indonesian research institutions, your partner would rather be the research institutions in Germany, and funding could then come from the German Research Foundation, for example.
Thank you so much, Christian. I think this brings us to the end of today's session, and I think you have really done an outstanding job at presenting the huge variety of opportunities that Germany has on offer. Now, we will, of course, share all the presentation slides, and I think Christian has hyperlinked the important websites for you to look at, to kind of carry out your own research and make your mobility experience a reality. And we, of course, will also share a recording of this webinar today, so you can look at it again, take notes, and then go off and explore what Germany has on offer. Please give us a couple of days to send to you, but I promise you, you will all receive it. Now with this, Christian, I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us and with all our audience members today. And I thank all of you for joining. I hope we'll see you again at future ERD events, and I wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Susanne, and thank you to everyone. Hope to hear from you. Goodbye.